Great day, great day. I'm Dr. Tammy White-Jolivette. Welcome to the Texture of Me podcast, where we talk about the intersection of textured hair, identity, and mental health, bringing a cultural and clinical lens to hair loss, scalp health, and the real-life impact on confidence and well-being. Each episode, we name what people experience, break down the impact, and share language and tools that support healing, confidence, and cultural understanding. If you've ever felt unseen, judged, or misunderstood because of your hair, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Great day, great day. I'm Dr. Tammy White-Jolivette. Welcome to the Texture of Me podcast. I am so excited. I'm glad to be back, y'all. And I have an awesome guest, Mrs. Erin Maybin. Oh my gosh, welcome, Erin. But before you get started, let me just acknowledge you for your accolades and all the things that you've accomplished. I mean, you're a licensed beauty professional, educator, man, an expert working on the intersection of beauty and policy. Man, they go together and people don't realize, right? And I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to you sharing that. And clinical health, that's one of my things too. Let's clock that, right? And education. I love the fact how much you're involved in education. And you're co-founder and vice president of the National Hairstyle and Braid Coalition. What's the abbreviation of that?
NHBC.
Yeah.
The NHBC.
Okay, I love it. And she serves as advisory spaces where modelization is happening in real time. Erin is helping position natural hair care practitioners as essential to the modern economy. I really, really love that. I think that's a missing in our industry, you know? So I can't wait for you guys to hear the conversation that Mrs. Maybin, Erin as I call you, if you don't mind, and share what she has to share with us today. What had you, first of all, get into the beauty industry? Let's get down and dirty.
Well, I think I was born into it. Like, I think I came out of the womb and I just had a natural knack for hair, right? Like, I cut up my Barbie doll's hair. I, used to draw, use marker to color their hair. I would pierce their ears. I was just always creating. And then my cousin, she was like my real life doll, right? We're the same age. So we were like sister cousins, and we still are. But every time I saw a style, so let me rewind here. My mother and my grandmother, right? That having your hair done was a thing in our home. Like my grandmother, I have her hot comb over there, actually.
Wow.
That was something that she did to all of us. And my mother the same. But the one thing my mother did and my grandmother did is they regularly went to see the hairdresser, right? They went to the salon.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time in the salon growing up. And so whenever I would see them doing styles, I would look at it and then I would take it back to my cousin, like, look, we're going to do this French roll. And I had no idea, but I was doing it, and then I remember my cousin, Shirley, would braid everybody's hair and I would watch her braid. So with that, I would teach myself how to braid. Like I'd be up in the middle of the night braiding my doll's hair, just until I got it right. And my father, he actually was the barber of the family, not traditionally trained, but he just knew how to cut hair because it was in the blood.
Right.
And he would cut my dad's hair. I mean, not my dad, but my grandfather's hair, his father, all my cousins, my cousin Orlando, he actually owns a barbershop. He's a barber. He's been a master barber for many, many years. Wow. And so it's just kind of there. And ironically, my grandmother's, my paternal grandmother's brother was a hairstylist.
Oh.
However, and this is where it kind of shifts, he died of, I believe it was lung or throat cancer. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to put a pin in that.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's a lot there, and that's wow. I'm just really present to how it's in the blood,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I figured we're going to go back to that because you have something you want to share about that. Okay, let's get down and also into what you're into today, right? When did you realize that natural hair care is, it's a policy, workforce, and economic power, and not just artistry?
I realized that after when I was in cosmetology school, and there was no one there to teach me about my hair. right? I realized it after I graduated cosmetology school, and there was a woman, or there were people that were trying to push for a natural hair school so you can get the license. And I was so excited. I was waiting for this program and waiting and waiting and waiting because I was going to continue my education and get my natural hair license. And the program never came to fruition. And, when I was in hair school, I realized that there was a gap. There was a major gap, and that I am in this school learning how to do white women's hair. But where do I come in? And what I found in school is that they looked at us, the Black women, to basically be the educators in cosmetology school of our hair. Like, we'd have to bring in our own products, our own relaxers, different things like that. And I felt like this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I don't know how to do hair. Like, granted, it's a natural gift, right, that I have. But when it comes to the science aspect of it, why am I doing this? And what is it doing to my body, if anything? So those were some of the questions that like started brewing when I was going through finishing my cosmetology license. I was very disheartened. I did not like the experience. I love doing hair, but the experience I felt was very lacking, and maybe it was because of my demographic. I lived in upstate New York, which was predominantly white. So, a lot of Black people in the area didn't have much of a voice, right? It was very segregated. You had your Black salons, your white salons. But again, we all had to kind of go through the path. They did have one program, and it was EOC. And you'd have to qualify, like, I think it went by your income. And I never qualified to be in that program. So I didn't get to, again, go into that formal training using the Marcells, the ovens, just the natural hair aspect. It was all about roller sets, finishing, perms, relaxer, beating the kinky out of the hair. And I just felt like there was more. And
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think about, like, how the work that you're doing and how you positioned yourself in areas that, normally were not there. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh man. So again, back in hair school, I had a realization that, wait, this doesn't exist. And I vowed, I don't know where this vow came from, but I stuck to it clearly. But I vowed to change the landscape of, cosmetology and natural hair care, like the legislation aspect of it, because through more research, I learned that there was a governing board, a cosmetology board that oversees rules, regulations, and legislation in accordance to what we learn in school. And, with that, I made it my path to get as much education as I could, become an educator, and take that knowledge, so to speak, and apply to be on the advisory board. Because what I also learned looking at the advisory board, it was out of compliance. They did not have enough seats filled. They're doing better now. That I would like to say that's, because of me. But
yes,
there was no one there that represented me. And I really needed for us to have a voice at that table. And so I sent an email to the Secretary of State's office, because that's who appointed me. And I said, hey, you need me, and this is why. Right. So I didn't wait for them to say, we're looking for you. I told them that they needed me, and this is why. And it took 2 years, but I got appointed to be on the board.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I see you on the social media, and all the things that you're doing is so inspiring. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I also, because I feel like there's that personal thing that I want to hear from you that had you like, this is it. Because I'm present to is like a commitment arose in you of your purpose, So share a little bit more, because I think it has a little bit what you put on that little sidebar and that shelf, and bring that into us and share a little bit more of your personal story, what had you to really be what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, I think, and I wrote about this in the book. Is it around? There's a book that I am co-author of, and it is Disrupting the Stories of, it's a long title, but I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about the title later.
Okay.
But basically in chapter 8, what I talk about is what I saw. And I saw that there was a hairstylist. Her name was Ruth, and she was a pillar of the community. And that was my grandmother's hairstylist. And every time I went in there, I just felt empowered. She didn't, say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I am. But what her space represented to me was that. It was that power, that ownership, because she owned her building, she owned her home, which means that she owned her economy. And, through that, over time, Ruth actually was another person that passed away, and she had throat cancer, and she used the Marcells. And so back to my grandmother's brother who passed away, the smoke in the Marcells, although I am sad that I didn't learn firsthand with the oven and the Marcells, I'm grateful because I have asthma, and I saw firsthand 2 people that passed away from secondhand smoke, essentially, and that really kind of got my wires going. Like, how safe is this, and why are we not learning about the safety of it? What are the things that may have contributed to some of our illnesses? And I had another instance where I did work in an all white salon, which I did enjoy. They were very nice, kind people. But there was a woman there named Bonnie, and R.I.P. Bonnie, but she died of breast cancer. And it was like a breast cancer. It was a terminal. Like, there was nothing that could be done. And it made me realize that this industry, there's more underlying there are more underlying things than just the styling. It's the health component, and that was something that started to kind of pour into my journey throughout time, and where I've now, even with my own health and certain things, can attribute what my experience and exposure to chemicals has resulted in. And I hope I answered that.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I love that. It's funny because as I think about what you're sharing, and thank you so much for sharing that, because that is the part that is not talked about either, right? Let alone even what I'm speaking of, and I'm thanking you for bringing that to the conversation, because even I still, do my clinical work, but I'm still at the salon. And I remember times when I come in and I'm coughing, and then I go home, I'm not having that cough anymore. You know what I mean? And those are the things I was just like, and then my clients, they were like, are you allergic to me? And I'm like, no, I'm not allergic to you, but I
It's
don't.
the products.
Right, exactly. But I love that you're speaking to that, and it's huge, and we do step over it. Nobody really talks about that. So wow.
And one thing I want to add to that is I did work in a corporation. So I worked at JCPenney's for many years. And one thing that we had to have was the data sheets, the safety data sheets, SDS. They used to be MSD. They changed the name. But basically, every time you purchase a product, it's supposed to have a safety data sheet attached that you should be able to locate and view at the drop of a hat. And a lot of these products don't have that. But the one thing it was called the MSDS, the Manufacturing Safety something sheet.
Okay.
Still don't have it. But what I learned working at JCPenney's is I had access to all of this information. And so I started reading through the different, things. Like they give you the hazardous sheet. It shows you what are the hazardous chemicals in here? What are the carcinogens? What can they possibly cause? Can they cause cancer? Can they cause this? Can they do that? How to rinse your eye out if you get a chemical in, or what to do with this particular chemical if a safety hazard was to incur. And that again started making me think, like, why do we not know this on a day-to-day basis, right? Especially in hair school. In hair school, they go over these things briefly, but they don't focus on how these chemicals are truly hazardous and that we're dealing with them. And some people choose not to wear gloves, which I don't really agree with that. I think that, you have to do everything you can to protect yourself. And honestly, I think we should be wearing goggles while we are performing chemical services, because our eyes are membranes. Right. And those things are fumes typically, and they do seep in, but again, these are things that we don't think about. And so I can't do it all at once, but we can, create a framework, so to speak.
Right.
And yeah.
I love it. It just, as you speak more, I think about my experience in my environment, and I'm glad that I have pivoted more to natural hair, but it was something that I felt was calling to me. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even think about the chemicals, but I really don't mess with chemicals that much like I used to with
Mm-hmm.
right before. And intuitively, I think that was just like the universe, God saying, "Hey, we need to start letting go," because I don't do them that much. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And but yeah, I didn't burn myself too many times with chemicals where I was like,
The relaxer, the scalp,
yes.
man.
Well, I stopped doing relaxers for years. I remember one time
Yeah.
we were having a training for a particular product line. It's supposed to be natural, but it was a relaxer.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, "You gonna do the relaxer?" I was like, "Huh?" I said, "I stopped doing relaxer. Why would you even ask me?" And I was kind of offended, but I understand, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, no, when I said I don't do relaxer, I don't do it. And the truth, one of the things that I think a lot of times I deal with people, they think I'm bad mouthing relaxers. I'm not. It's
Mm-hmm.
not my call. But what I do believe in giving people choices.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you know better, you do better.
That's right.
You know? And anytime, just really reflecting back to when I did get relaxers, and I think about it now, I'm like, the stuff burned my scalp. If I burned my hand, the degree that I burned my scalp, we'd be going to the emergency room. You know what I'm saying? And this is a membrane, my brain, my head, and we're putting relaxers. That's the girl. I mean, I tell this story quite often, but it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about where I literally had my mom. I keep a relaxer on my hair so long
Mm.
because I thought it meant that my hair would be longer the longer I kept it on. So I.
But you're not the only person that thinks that.
Oh wow.
Like it's literally, they're not attributing harm
Hmm.
to the relaxer. They're attributing harm to beauty, or beauty is pain, that old mantra,
Oh yeah.
and it's like, okay, if I leave it on for this long, then I'm going to get this. And then also the names, the semantics. Like I remember there used to be, it was the Hawaiian silky perm.
Mm.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
With silky, what if your hair texture is not silky in the first place? The Hawaiian silky isn't gonna make it silky.
Right.
Marketing is genius.
Right. And what it say? No lie. They lie.
Yeah, it's all a lie. It's lying.
They lied. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Thank you for that. I have another question. What's the difference between hair care and hair health? Can you elaborate a little bit on that for me?
I mean, I think they kind of correlate, right? Because hair care is going to essentially give you hair health, right?
Right.
Hair care is to promote hair health,
Right.
right? And care looks like having a conversation, starting there, starting with the lifestyle, starting with, what are their goals? What is their current hair care regimen?
Mhm.
Do they even have one? What products are you using? Because all of these things attribute to the hair, but what really attributes to the hair is our internal health. Right. So our hair health is really, I always say our hair is like the first signal of things that could be going wrong in our body.
Mhm.
And I'll use myself as an example. My hair, I used to have it shaved on the sides, and my top, it was just wild and free. And that was my favorite hair. Okay. I would do twist outs, I would braid it, whatever it was.
Mhm.
And I would say about 2020, through that year, my hair started changing and shifting. And I thought it was because I had low vitamin D, iron, and that can typically shift and change your hair texture. But there was something else happening. There was something else occurring. And what I did is I was going back and forth to the doctors, had no idea what was happening because everything was coming back normal. So in 2000, I believe it was early 2021, I shaved all my hair off. It was like a whole thing. I have a video. It was a whole thing. I've shaved my hair off before, but this was different because I didn't want to do it.
Hmm.
But my hair was not, it just was not functioning the way it was. It was not supple. It was just like, it was like straw,
Hmm.
and I'm like, there's something going on inside of me. And so fast forward, that's when I started my lock journey, because I started growing my hair back out, and that's why I have locks. But what I found out is that I had an autoimmune thing going on, and it's called pulmonary sarcoidosis. And what that was doing, it was pulling from different parts of my body, right? Nutrients, and it just goes haywire. It's known as the great mimicker because they'll think it's arthritis or lupus or sickle cell because it shows up in so many different ways. And once I found out what it was, I was then able to adjust certain things in my lifestyle.
Mm.
But like you were telling me earlier about your book, there are clinical things that are happening that impact our hair.
Mhm.
And we have to know more about that because again, our hair is an extension of our hair, and our nails are an extension of our skin.
Right.
And if our skin is not in good condition, it's because there are things inside of us that we may not be absorbing nutrients. We
Right.
may not, we may have um, an autoimmune disease, in which a lot of Black women do have because we internalize a lot of trauma and emotional issues.
Mm.
But I mean, it's very layered and deep, but that was something that I was like, wow, this is what happens in my hair. And it was devastating. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine how other people feel,
Mhm.
that are experiencing, health crises or experiences that impact their hair.
Right. And even speaking to what you say, because, in research that I found, the hair and
Mm-hmm.
nails is the last place that we get nutrients. So it'll take it from my hair and our nails because it's like, well, okay, I'm gonna take it from there, and that's when it's really has occurred,
Yes.
so much. And so I'm an advocate for people taking hair and nail vitamins. I know there's specific ones out there, and
Mm-hmm.
I've tried some that work, but I want to speak to that when we talk about nutrients and health and well-being. People don't realize the significance of our hair and nails just because it seems like we really can't feel it, which I don't feel that way. That's another conversation, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not part of who we are in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
another conversation when we talk about identity. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for speaking to that. And wow, I can see, thank you for bringing how the correlation of hair care and hair health is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
even emphasizing that hair health is actually internal health that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It showed up in your hair and you had to cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like you just mentioned something that I was like, yes, like the hair and the nails are like the last thing.
Hmm.
But in the society we live in, our hair and our nails have been stylized, right? They
Hmm.
have not been put in a place of, hey, this is an alert system. You should
Right,
listen.
right.
I used to get my nails done regularly,
Yeah.
but because of the autoimmune stuff, I had to stop because I noticed that my nails would they would get soft and they would literally come out. I don't know how to explain it, but the center of it would dig out,
Right.
and I was like, oh, and now I can tell when my body is lacking oxygen or I might be having a flare up of my autoimmune
Hmm.
because my nails change. So
Oh.
that is something I think that we have to look more at. And that's why when you go to a hospital, you have to do surgery, you say, come with your nails clear, like no paint, no nail polish or fake nails, because this is an alert system.
Mm.
Hey, a quick pause here. If you're ready to go deeper, I want to invite you to two resources. First, the Texture of Me Healing is where we provide therapy, coaching, focus, psychological evaluation for adults navigating anxiety, stress, trauma, and identity based experiences, including the emotional impact tied to hair loss, scalp health, and appearance changes. Links are in the description. Second, my book, Tangled Emotions, The Hair and Healing Guide, is available now. It offers clear definitions, real life experiences, and supportive next steps to help you name what you're experiencing with compassion and clarity. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Man, healthcare and hair care. Ooh,
Ooh,
that's so good, right?
right.
It's like like it's my new thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm loving it." I'm like,
Yes.
"Yeah, wow,
Yes.
yeah, I appreciate that." Yeah, and it's and when you mentioned about nails, I stopped getting my nails done a long time ago because it hurt.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and for some reason it was okay. It was the conditioning. Then
Mm-hmm.
not that only did it hurt, then I was doing hair, so I had to go off, and then I had to sit over there.
But when I kept really reflecting, I'm like, it hurts when I get my nails done. How is that supposed to be okay? You know? But even then when I'm hearing that, I hear another whole story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what we just said, beauty is pain. Says who? Like, you know?
That's cat.
Yeah.
Beauty is not pain. Beauty is self-care. Beauty is self-actualization. You
Mhm.
know,
Beauty is
beauty is
natural.
health.
Yeah. And beauty is natural, right? Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, I know you're working at a school as well. Don't you work at I think at a school, beauty school or something around? No, for some reason.
No, no.
Okay.
So I have my platform that I created. It's called Hair Steam Education, and
Okay.
it's
That's what I
basically
thought.
exploring hair through science and art.
Mm-hmm.
And I love experiments because I'm a visual learner, and I know that students enjoy that too. I've had the opportunity to, have different workshops at various high schools with students who, are in career discovery mode. And it really is something that is really phenomenal
Mm-hmm.
because we typically will hold the workshop in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes into their science because it's STEAM. And I want these students to know that I'm not just a hairstylist. I'm a scientist. I'm a technologist. I'm an engineer. I'm an
Right.
artist, and I'm a mathematician, right?
Right.
Because all of those scopes of practice interweave into
Right.
hair.
Yeah.
And when I bring it to them in that way, they're just like, what? Even the science teacher is like, wow, I never thought about that. Like we've looked at the hair strand under the microscope and we see some people with medullas, some people without. There was this one really cool one, and I think I have the picture, I don't know, but she was a redhead
Mm.
and her hair showed up as a prism, like it looked like stained glass.
Wow.
So it's like really cool to kind of go deeper and see how our genetics are coming through science. So I think that is like really cool and interesting. I'm a nerd when it comes to hair and the art of it, because it's just all connected. And even with like Isaac Newton and the color theory, right? Like we have that I bring in to them. And again, it's like, oh wow, really? Like the shadows, the lights, like it's all relative. And I just want more people to realize that hair is STEAM education. And I've also had the opportunity to keynote at pharmaceutical company Regeneron, because again, it's important. And they're pharmacists, they're scientists, so they understand. And they thought it was so cool looking at the molecule of hair and how that kind of translates into their work, right? Because if you're taking a product, or if you are not a product, but if you're taking a prescription of something or any type of medicine,
Right.
it's going to go into your hair. So how does it impact that? That's why, like in forensics, they can find out who done it.
Right.
Or if you're going for a drug test, they can find out if you're taking them because it comes out through your hair. So
Mm.
our hair is a story, and it's a fiber that it's one of the strongest fibers in the world, and it doesn't break down. So that's why hair is still here from thousands of years ago.
Mm. I love that. And I love the inspiration of it all with what you're doing and the work and the
Mm-hmm.
archery. And I love how you said, we're engineers, we're scientists. Because I would tell somebody I'm a hair engineer. Because they give you a picture.
Mm-hmm.
We get in our mind and we're like everything based on what the type of hair they have, what they do for a living, what
Mm-hmm.
goals that they want to do, what they want to accomplish with their hair is so broad, and we
Mm-hmm.
create within our head, and then
Mm-hmm.
we bring it forth to them. And
Mm-hmm.
just because
Mm-hmm.
it's in the magazine, of course we know it's not going to be the same, but we
Mm-hmm.
create it just for them. That's
Mm-hmm.
artistry. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I could be a magician too, a beauty.
Oh yeah, it's all relative. And but that's where our gift, our superpower is, we're able to take something and create a plan.
Right, right.
That's a gift, to
Yeah.
be able to look at something and in your mind
Mm,
create a plan of action from point A all the way to Z,
mm,
for that client to say, "Oh my God, you did it."
mm.
That's more than a gift.
Oh, yeah, that's so moving to me. It is, I'm just real. I didn't feel like it'd move me like that because when you know, I visualize, well, how I vision where I've had clients to sit there and say, wow, you did it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like how you articulated how all that we do, and to them, they're able to feel beautiful or
Mm-hmm.
handsome because of what we created for them.
Mm-hmm.
That they're that day, and as long as that style lasts, you know what I'm saying? That life
Right.
can transform, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, like, I've shared before, like clients crying in my chair because,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure for you too, where it's like we just created this something that they didn't see possible for themselves, and here we did that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to step over being the scientist. That
Mm-hmm.
part. I remember, just a sidebar. I remember this whole concept of putting oil in the scalp and stuff, and how we were raised, and I remember thinking to myself, that don't make sense. Why would you oil your scalp, which is going to clog your pores? And then I thought about, I don't know, this may tell my age, but when
Mm-hmm.
they fried chicken or something like that, we threw it outside. We didn't throw it down the sink. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I didn't, this concept of oiling scalp and all this kind of stuff, that's when I think started triggering even like the science part of things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a part that the hair industry doesn't speak on either because it's all, it's all
It's
about,
all about the money.
yeah. Wow.
Because if they told the truth,
Hmm.
they wouldn't be making the money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another even conversation while these companies are buying out these other companies. It's just a sidebar on the show. And they're
Mm-hmm.
changing their products, and then consumers are experiencing some hair damages, scalp damages because they're not, it's not
Mm-hmm.
natural. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. All right. So, could you speak more about modernizing standards that actually look behind the scenes of curriculums, safety protocols, competency measures, and licensure categories? Could you speak on that a little bit?
Oh man, that was deep. That's
Right.
what I do. No, I'm just like that's what I do. I mean, it's really just taking, you know, the things that we have learned over time. And even me and I've been in this industry for over 20 years, and there's been so much new information, but new to me, but information that has been right in our communities,
Mhm.
but maybe, nobody really knows about it. So bringing that to the forefront and codifying it into, legislation, career pathways, legitimizing the work that people are already doing so
Mhm.
that they have the ability to go out there, be a part of the workforce, make and earn an honest living, but also create a legacy, right? Entrepreneurship. Um, and in terms of like curricula, there are things that needed to be updated because in New York State, the license came out in 1993.
Mhm.
The pioneers they did that, and that set the world ablaze, but it hadn't been updated.
Mhm.
And so it was, in like these last few years that we've really been working to update the rules and regulations, because rules and regulations can be updated without legislation. So we were able to do that on the advisory board. There was a natural hair subcommittee that I was able to finally form because I told them, and I just want to just kind of like, this isn't a sidebar, but it's just an
Oh, bring
adjacent,
it in.
right? It's
Bring
an
it in.
adjacent.
Yes. Do your thing.
I let the board know, like, in advance, hey, this is coming down the pipeline, we need to get it. And nobody was listening to me, right? Because we know that when we're just saying the things, and people, they don't see the vision, right? I have a gift, and my gift is a vision. Like, I can see things beyond today.
Gotcha.
And sometimes people are very resistant to that.
Mhm.
And so you have to just keep pushing. But it took a year for them to finally be like, okay, we understand. So that's when we were able to create the Natural Hair Subcommittee, who came in and updated the curricula, updated cosmetology as well as natural hairstyling. Because in 2023, and again, the texture of change, they introduced legislation with uh assembly member Salages and Senator Bailey, and that basically was to implement natural hair education within cosmetology, right? Or texture education in cosmetology. But natural hair care already existed. So it was something that it wasn't a heavy lift, you
Right.
know, and it's something that I've been telling them for years. Like people are only looking at this one tiny chapter and having experience as a cosmetology, you know, teacher, we barely touched the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And being in school, we barely touched the chapter. We had one Black teacher at my school that I went to when I was getting my license, and she was there part-time
Mm.
at night.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to change that. And I say that because this license that we have now, A7924, the
Mm-hmm.
bill on the Natural Hair Care and Braiding Act, that's going to create a tiered system of pathways to licensure, right? Apprenticeship, grandfathering in those that are already in, you know, doing the work,
Right.
but they just now need to be, you know, legitimized. So they will just have to do 100 years 100 hours of training, and that will be in safety and standards and different things like that. And then the apprenticeship will be a year-long program that you're going to get paid while you work, just like if you're, you know, an apprentice barber, right? You're working, but you're getting paid, but you're getting taught by a master barber. So three pathways, and then you're going to get in that apprenticeship a supervisor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's another level, because again, in this industry, what I've also seen
Mm-hmm.
and heard from peers is that when they're being asked to come and teach in the cosmetology schools, there's typically no budget for it. It's volunteer.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think that's fair.
No.
I think that we should be educators in this industry because we lead this industry. And so that educator needs to be put on the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just about cosmetology educators. Like if you're a cosmetologist, you kind of can do the full spectrum
Right.
of hair, but sometimes as cosmetologists, we tend to lean into one discipline or another, right?
Yeah.
So where are the educators? And I just want there to be more natural hair educators because they're here and they exist, and I want them to be legitimized so that they can get paid properly.
Yeah. You know, I love that too. You speak with that because I remember the whole. I don't, it's funny because it's happening. It happened, then it's still happening, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people think that it's something new, but no, it's actually been going on. Then it's like this aha moment, all that the things that's going. And I remember when they were promoting to have natural hair education to be free. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is my personal experience. I was upset.
Mm.
Let me tell you why I was upset. I was upset because when we go to do highlighting classes,
Mm-hmm.
we go to doing all these other classes, be it perma, that they're not free. They're like
Mm-hmm.
thousands of dollars. Oh, but when it comes to doing natural hair, it's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be free all of a sudden. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned to choose my battles. It was so
Mm-hmm.
vivid. But I was like, what is it that, natural hair, there's so many intricate things about hair
Mm-hmm.
and natural hair that not one sitting will ever suffice for what it
Mm-mm.
requires for this level of education.
Mm-mm.
Never. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
It's forever growing because the different hair patterns and even when we talked about like how it changes throughout the year. You
Mm-hmm.
never like know one thing. Now highlighting, highlight is gonna either be highlight. You know what I'm saying? There's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I could totally get, having this be something that is required and to be educated. Yeah, and then not to be free. Like why? Everything else we pay for.
Yeah. Like, why do I have to come and offer my expertise and what I know that I have taken many years to learn and train and be versed in? Now you want me to come in and volunteer?
Hmm.
No,
No,
absolutely not.
absolutely not. Wow, girl, I could talk to you all day here. We'll have to do a part two for sure. Um, can you describe as being a natural hair practitioner? Because I love the fact that you're talking about modernizing it. Could you elaborate a little bit on what that would look like ideally? How, because I know you're doing the work, right?
Mhm.
And where have you seen happening and what does that actually look like for us in the industry?
I mean, I think it's just when we say modernizing, terminology is part of it, right? Bringing in some of the new terms that we've learned, but bringing it to the forefront and making it more prominent. I feel like that's modernizing it, right? Bringing it alive again, resuscitating it, because natural hair care has been around since my grandmother, since before her, but it just wasn't called that. But now I feel like we have a name, we have a term that is separate from cosmetology. It's interwoven, but it's separate because it's a different scope of practice, and we have to really focus on that scope of practice. And just to like clarify what I do, I like to call myself a healthy hair specialist because I focus on the health of the hair. Natural hair practitioner, I wouldn't say that because I did not get a natural hair license. I'm a cosmetologist who, specializes in natural hair.
Right.
But there are still things that I don't know. There's still things that I'm learning and understanding more about, even my own hair. And that's just being honest.
Right.
But I do understand people and I do understand the body and how that impacts our hair's health, right? And I understand fabric and I understand how the hair, and what the hair needs. Like it's really like something like a gift. It's kind of like touching someone and you can just feel it. That's kind of how I work.
And I love that you bring that too, because I think about, when interacting with clients, it is a sense of intuition and knowing and the confidence
Hmm.
who we are, because it really takes something to create this look that they're wanting.
Hmm.
It ain't not the book.
No.
It's never been,
Mm-mm.
And I think that's what is also missing about the health of it all.
Hmm.
And as I speak to my clinician part, that's where I was able to see too the mental health that no one
Hmm.
would speak about. So I love
Hmm.
how, you're emphasizing just the physical health and how that
Hmm.
really, but it still also correlates to the mental health.
It is. And that's also a part of the modernization is incorporating the whole body, right? Incorporating the mental, the physical, the emotional. And the one thing again with this incorporation is the understanding that everybody's body is different.
Mm,
Everybody's body performs different, reacts different. And the more that we understand that, the more we're equipped to support our community,
mm,
right?
right.
The modernizing also looks like just like bringing this to a space that it's never been,
Mm,
because natural hair and it's not, this is not even about natural hair, this is about Black women.
right.
Okay, let's just be plain. This
Okay.
is about Black women
Yeah.
and the fact that Black women have not been valued through time, and that's why our hair is not valued. Even though our hair is politicized, our
Mm,
hair is weaponized,
mhm,
it's not valued.
mhm,
And so what's happened is over time is we've lost that, self-value almost in connection to our hair, and how it was a ritual, it was a care, like Saturday and Sunday, that was hair time.
right. It was. Yeah.
That meant that you're going to get your hair done, you might not like it, but you knew that after you were going to feel good
Right.
about yourself.
Right.
And we've now kind of gone into, I feel like a fast food
Mm.
um of hair, so to speak.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I think about the whole weave and like I said, as we said earlier, we're not here to criticize anybody for
Mm-mm.
choices, but to let them have options. But yeah, doing the weave thing, it needs to be this way, it needs to look straight. And then I remember times even when I appreciate too, like you're able to it's not about because I think natural hair is a cliche, right?
Yeah.
It's just something to just throw out there like it's nothing. But there is a context to it that
Mm-hmm.
needs to be spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing it to the forefront and modernizing it, I could totally get what you're saying. Like, hey, it ain't just about natural hair. There's more to it that we need to
Mm-hmm.
speak to and address to.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Wow.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else would you like to share? I want to keep asking the additional question. What else do you feel led to share with, our audience, the texture of me?
Let me think. Let me think. Which I want to know. I mean, again, for me, it's just about creating paths. It's about, knowing that there's more out there beyond hair. Hair is the entry point to whatever you want to do. You know, I looked back at my life, and I was just having this conversation with my mother, and I said, you know, this is really a calling on my life. And sometimes with callings, and I'll be honest, sometimes you don't want to do it. Like, because it's a lot. It's not just it's like the calling is so heavy sometimes. The calling feels like it's a weight, but it also feels like liberation. And it feels like when you see the work in action, you're like, okay, this is why. This is the why. And I feel like my calling started when I was 5 years old, and my father shaved my hair off. Like I said, he was the barber, because nobody had time or knew how to take care of my hair. And so what that kind of did for me is it showed me that my hair did not define me. I defined me. But it also showed me that I have to be the person in charge of my hair. So I took it upon myself to learn how to do my hair. When I was in high school, my mom, I would go get my hair done, but I would maintain it to where people thought I went to the hairdresser before I went to school. And I was like, no, I just, knew that I didn't want to look crazy, and then again, being teased, being, younger. I remember my hair, it was natural. And this girl, and it hurt my feelings so much. And she said, because her and her family, their hair was relaxed and straightened and, and just looking nice for the era. But she said, your hair is dry. You need to put some grease in your hair. And she was just talking about my hair. And I'll never forget how I felt in that moment. I didn't let her know, but it never left. That never left me. And it just made me feel terrible about myself. And we don't do those things on purpose. It's just what we're taught, and then we just give it to someone else, not realizing how it can impact them. And so that has been, an underlying push towards the work that I do. But there's been many times in my life that have always led back to hair. And so here I am. I do not resist it
give you a
anymore.
high five. Like, it's I appreciate you being on the show, but we have so many similarities. My mom cut all my hair off because she didn't feel like doing it,
Yes.
and I hated that. And the embarrassing moment that I had was I was in kindergarten and they pulled me out because they thought I was a boy, you know? And ever since then, it's like this whole hair thing has been something I think intuitively and psychologically, something that I've held on to that made me become a hairstylist. I remember people was like, what made you start doing hair? Because nobody knew how to do my hair. I didn't know how to do my
I
hair.
had to figure it out.
Right. And I was in high school and I used to do my hair, and people used to think I used to go to beauty shop. My mom wouldn't take me to get it done. I could totally relate, and I see the passion that it comes from within.
Yeah, it comes from the wound,
Yeah,
right? It comes from the wound.
it
And
does.
like you said, you felt like a little boy. So my name is Erin, which is a unisex name,
Right.
right? My dad shaved my hair off, and then the way he dressed me, I looked like a little boy. I remember I had these navy blue Velcro pony sneakers and like striped shirts. Like it was like there was nothing about me that was looking like I'm a girl. Not
Right.
saying that, and now we have this whole, non-gender conformity, but when back then it was boy girl,
Right.
and there was no in between.
Right.
And it just made me feel like, not really the prettiest or the best, or but through it, after, like, my dad, he would roll my hair with rollers, and hair was always a prominent force in my life. It never was not about hair.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was because of the work that I was supposed to do. And I don't know if other people experienced this. They might not.
Right.
But that's been my experience, and hair is just, it's my life. When you look at my house, you'll see that it's my life.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Wow, that's really awesome. Thank you, thank you. You know, you got to come back to the show. We got so much to talk more about.
Yes, I would
Yes,
love to.
yes. Well, you know, Erin, where can they find you? What is your social media handles? Please do share with us.
Well, my social media handle is Erin H. Maybin. So is my website, erinhmaybin.com. And then my other website, which is the Hair Steam, it's hairsteam.education. So I have two websites, and all of my websites are in my bio section of my link tree on my Instagram. So Erin H. Maybin on Instagram is probably the best place to find me and follow.
Gotcha, gotcha. Anything else you want to tell to our guests? I mean, as being our guest here to our audience, anything else you want to share before
I
we?
mean, I think I'd be remiss if I don't mention the Natural Hairstyle and Braid Coalition. So I definitely think that you should all join the coalition because we're an advocacy group advancing this industry, right? Advancing curricula, advancing standards, and making sure that Black women are able to create their own table. So, we are _NHBC on Instagram, and our website is nhbcoalition.org. We are a tax exempt organization. We are official. So we are able to accept donations because the donations fuel our work. And again, we are definitely looking for members, new advocates to come on board and join our mission.
Mm, I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. Ooh, love it.
I'm
And
so happy that we made it. Super Bowl. What?
yes. All right. Thank you so much for being on our show. Okay. Have a great one.
Thank you so much for spending time with us at The Texture of Me. If today's episode helped you put words to your experience, do 3 quick things. Subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who needs it. And if you're ready for the next step, check on the links in the description for The Texture of Me Healing and my book, Tangled Emotions. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, your texture, your story, and your healing all matter. Great day, great day. See you next time.